I only read one book, but it's a good book, don't you know? I act the way I act because the good book tells me so. If I want to know how to be good, it's to the good book that I go. Because the good book is a book, and it is good, and it's a book.
And God, who did presumably appear in person for once, as he did do in the old days, said unto Jacob, who by this time had already been renamed Israel several chapters previously, although he wouldn't know it, Arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there, and make there an altar unto God, that appeared unto thee when thou fleddest from the face of Esau thy brother, or did follow the specific instructions of thy father, depending which of the two completely contradictory, yet entirely accurate, versions of this narrative thou doth accept. And Jacob did jump up out of the long grass, and did turn to the Lord, and did ask him if this matter could not as wait until he had finished having a shit. And the Lord did apologize, and did go back to throwing angry pigeons at pigs on his eye slab. Then Jacob, who by this time had made his way back to his tent, said unto his household, and to all that were with him, Put away the strange gods that are amongst you, and be clean, and change your garments. And the gods amongst them did look sorrowful, as they did scatter about the tent, and did hide in dark places. And those of his household did complain that they had already changed their underwear already that year, and that it wasn't fair. Yet Jacob continued. And let us arise, and go up to Bethel, and I will make there an altar unto God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. And one amongst them did ask Jacob if he hadn't already built an altar in Bethel, so that they may serve up burnt offerings unto the Lord, several chapters ago. And Jacob did say, Nay, for the stone pillar that I did erect at Bethel was but a roadside calf, that did serve up burgers and a selection of warm and cold beverages. And they gave unto Jacob all the strange gods which were in their hand, and all their earrings that were in their ears, and mobile telephones, and sweets, and chewing gum, and Jacob hid them under the oak which was by Shechem. And lo, they did not get them back after class. And they journeyed, and the terror of God was upon the cities that were round about them. And the people of the cities did lock away all that they did treasure, and nail down anything that was valuable, and then did keep an eye upon the nails, lest Jacob and his band did steal them, for nails were expensive back then. And when they had passed, the townsfolk were relieved, and they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. So Jacob came to Luz, which at that time, as everyone agreed, was just one hell short of being amusing, which is in the land of Canaan, that is Bethel, which is also Luz. He and all the people that were with him, apart from the ones that weren't. And he built there an altar, with a spit roast attachment and a self-service salad bar, and committing what was at the time the most epic spelling fail in history, called the place El Bethel, just for the Luz, because there God appeared unto him when he fled from the face of his brother. Or to be more technically accurate, he did imagine God appearing unto him in a dream when stopping there overnight, while journeying unto his uncle's house in the old country, at his father's direct instruction. But Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, for she was apparently but a minor character, with no speaking lines that nobody did give a fuckest about, having only appeared once previously, when Rebekah was brought from Haran, and she was buried beneath Bethel, under an oak, and the name of it was called Alon Bakuth, which doth mean weeping oak, or keep off the grass, depending on thine grasp of ancient Hebrew. And lo, suddenly the whole narrative did jump track, and a blue box with a light on top did suddenly appear, and a man wearing what would one day be known as a bow tie and a fez did emerge, and urging Jacob to trust him, as he was a healer, did drag Jacob inside, which was much larger than expected, and they did go back in time several chapters, and when they did arrive at a time years before, the man in the fez did push him out through the door while talking about things called Daleks, before vanishing once again, along with his books. And God appeared unto Jacob again, when he came out of Padan Aram, and blessed him, which is the concise version of this story, and how God likes to hear the story recounted, given that in the extended version God did get 10 bells knocked out of him by Jacob when he did appear as Ninja Jesus, and did wrestle with him all night by the campfire. And God said unto him, after Jacob had knocked half his teeth out, and got him in a headlock, Thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel, which doth mean one that struggled with the divine angel, or one who has prevailed with God, or also a man seeing God. Or quite possibly he will rule as God, or even a prince with God, or have power as a prince, or just prevail, all of which were mistranslations of what God actually called Jacob, as in the years to come this book will be seen as wholesome and family-friendly, and it would upset readers greatly if they did find that God did in fact call Jacob the shit-kicking, pig-porking bastard offspring of a dog-bothering, mud-humping, niece-fucking altar boy who was a waste of a good ram, before demanding that he did release his grasp, as God could no longer feel his ears. And God said unto him, I am God Almighty, be fruitful and multiply. Which was a polite way of telling him to go fuck himself, and that a nation and a company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins, which was a line that God had been using since Jacob's grandfather's time. And the land which I gave Abraham and Isaac, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed after thee will I give the land, which is something that God had done several chapters and over 20 years previously, when Jacob last visited Bethel after his father, Isaac, had given Jacob the land after it was given to Isaac and all of Isaac's descendants, apart from Esau. And God, who was wearing his red and gold Iron Man suit, went up from him in the place where he had talked with him, shooting up into the sky, leaving Jacob standing in a cloud of dust and smoke. And lo, there was a sound as if thunder, and from out of the sky a silver chariot did fall, coming to rest by Jacob's side. And a silver-haired wise man did embark, and say unto him, Great Scott! And he did insist that Jacob did come back with him, and in a desperate effort to ensure that the reader did not think that the original writers of this narrative did mistakenly repeat and retell yet another pivotal part of the story completely out of sequence, they did travel back in time a further 20 years so that Jacob could go to the prom with his own mother, but more importantly, completely rewrite history, and so provide an unlikely, yet entirely plausible reason for 2 previously consecutive chapters telling completely contradictory versions of the same narrative. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he talked with him being God, who in the original story he had done a deal with in a dream he had had the night before, even a pillar of stone, and he poured a drink offering thereon, and he poured oil thereon. And Jacob called the name of the place where God spake with him Bethel, and with the continuity of the narrative yet again restored, Jacob and the silver-haired wise man, who Jacob did call Doc, as it seemed to be a fitting name for one who travelled in time, did embark once more in their silver chariot, called Delorean, and travel back unto the future, where, although they wouldn't need them, they did indeed have roads, and where they parted company, and Jacob rejoined his household. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was but a little way to come to Ephrath. And Rachel travailed, and she had hard labour, because though it didn't happen very often, even though it was an inconvenient moment, she had managed to get pregnant again. And it came to pass, when she was in hard labour, that the midwife said unto her, Fear not, thou shalt have this son. Because these are biblical times, and despite all of the smiting, the religious slaughter, and the ethical cleansing of the earth, this narrative is most definitely pro-life. in the way that would be understood many years from now, and so the life of the mother is worthless so long as her unborn child can be delivered and so be brought up by foster parents, or even possibly be adopted. And it came to pass, as her soul was departing, for she died, that she called his name Benoni. But his father called him Benjamin, because he did think that it did sound better, as he did not wish his son to be named after a South African football team. And Rachel died from medical complications that would one day be entirely survivable as a result of the invention of a thing called medical science, which, because it will come to invalidate a great many of the things that will be written in this narrative, and rely heavily on a thing called evolutionary science, which will contradict, at the very least, the first 2 chapters of this book, will be seen as evil by stupid people who will wish to be with God and return to biblical times, yet don't like the idea of dying before their time of preventable and curable ailments. And she was buried in the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem, which is just as well, as Jacob had forgotten to book a hotel, and they would have probably had to spend the night sleeping in the barn. And because the idea of using a wooden cross as a grave marker hadn't yet been invented, Jacob set a pillar upon her grave. That is a pillar of Rachel's grave unto this day and into the future, where it will become not only a tourist attraction, but also a shrine visited by women who, ironically enough, wish to pray for a successful childbirth, and not one where they end up dead. And in a moment of confusion for the reader, Jacob, going by his new name Israel, journeyed and spread his tent beyond the tower of Edar, which on this occasion did not contain a wizard who made orcs or have a giant flaming eye on the roof. And it came to pass, when Israel dwelt in that land, that Reuben, in an effort to spice up the narrative, and in the absence of any sisters or nieces, went and laid with Bilhah, his father's concubine. And Israel heard it, and he did call him a motherfucker, which was entirely accurate, given the fact that Bilhah was his stepmother. Now, the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah, whom they could make pregnant just by looking at her, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, who did have a thing for older women, and Simeon, who did like eating bananas and did spend his time mostly climbing trees, and Levi, who did wear stylish trousers made from a hard-wearing blue cloth, and Judah, who would one day get into human trafficking and prostitution and have a son that will be a wanker, and Issachar, who did like to read, and Zebulun, who did little of any interest. The sons of Rachel: Joseph, who we will hear more about later, and Benjamin, who was technically a Canaanite. And the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid: Dan, who was the man, and Naphtali, who was often confused with Issachar. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid: Gad and Asher, who just made up the numbers. These are the sons of Jacob, which were born to him in Padamaran, apart from Benjamin, who, as was mentioned only a couple of verses ago, was actually born in Bethlehem, smack bang in the middle of Canaan. And Jacob, not having been back in decades, came unto Isaac his father, unto Mamre, unto the city of Arba, which is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac sojourned, and where Isaac had lived for years. And the days of Isaac were 180 years, which once again is considerably more than the 120 that the Lord had set down at the time of Noah, who incidentally lived until an age of 962, and almost lived long enough to see the birth of his great-great-great-great-great-grandson, Abraham, Isaac's father. And Isaac gave up the ghost, and died, and was gathered unto his people, having apparently gone to pieces and dropped apart during his latter years, being old and full of days, had his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. And lo, Up in heaven Isaac did speak unto the Lord, who was busy looking through the castles of the drama unfolding upon the earth, and pondering upon which other minor characters he could kill off in an effort to cut production costs and inject a little more originality into the storyline. And he did point out unto the Lord that, while he may be immortal and eternal, and for him all of time may be stretched out from beginning to end in such a way that the Lord can experience it and interact with it all at once, so that he is able to turn up on cue at a moment's notice at the merest hint of a burnt offering, so that he can have first crack at the buffalo wings and pork pies. Humans experience time in a more linear fashion, and sending Jacob off to a place that Jacob has called Bethel, so that he may name it Bethel, doesn't make any bloody sense. As does telling Jacob that he will from now on be referred to as Israel, and then insisting on referring to him as Jacob. And the Lord did think about this for a while, and then did fire some of the writers, and did say, "You're right. It's time to go back to basics and have a good old-fashioned biblical list."